Hello and welcome to another edition of Issues with Jide. Here we'll talk about actions and inactions of those who shape our political and national landscape and how these impact us positively or otherwise. I'm Ibrahim Shita. Today on the show, Governor Wike mocks Atiku, IU over Abuja protest as PDP demands INEC chairman's resignation, insists INEC rigged for APC. And later on the show, state warned Emefiele, Malami committed to prison for contempt as Naira scarcity persists. In the course of the program, we'll take your questions, but first subscribe to our YouTube channel and drop your questions in the comment section. I have joining me via Zoom, the maestro himself, Babajide Kolade-Otitoju. It's good to see you, BKO. We were supposed to be having an election today, but it has been postponed.
Yes, as a nation, we are used to postponement of our elections. Since 2011, we've had one reason or another to postpone elections. In 2011, we had begun the elections, and after a few hours, INEC called it off and told us to return the following week for a fresh round of elections. All the efforts, hours in the sun wasted. Then in 2015, the Nigerian forces claimed that it needed to chase Boko Haram away from the communities that they occupied.
Right.
And they asked for 6 weeks for that military campaign. After 6 weeks, with the help of Chadian troops, they were able to dislodge them from the communities that they occupied in Yobe, Adamawa, and Borno states. And so we were ready for elections because the law says that no local government in the Nigerian Federation should be left behind during elections. So the NSA of the time felt justified to carry out the military operation, you know. Then the following year, the following electoral cycle, 2019, we were just hours away from the election when again it was postponed. So this one is not a surprise to me. And their own reason is they needed a minimum of 5 days to reconfigure the beavers machines, because the beavers machines are the most important electronic device or tool by which we have made our elections credible. It is the electronic accreditation module. It has helped us to banish incident forms. It has helped us to ensure that only those who registered for the election, those armed with their PVCs, can take part in the elections. In the past, our elections were recklessly rigged using the incident form. People will line up, they were not registered to vote, and then they will just be given a form to fill, so they will go and cast their ballots. This time around, Beavers has ensured that you cannot exceed the number of accredited voters. It's only those accredited by Beavers that can go ahead to vote. So the Beavers has been very useful. It achieved 85% optimum functionality at these elections, and it has helped us to make our elections credible. Anyone who saw about 7 governors losing their senatorial elections will know that nothing made that possible beyond Beavers.
Right, absolutely.
And
right, absolutely, BKO. You know, you are a repository of Nigeria history, whatever it is that has happened, you know, back in the day. When you are asked the question, you are able to provide, the background as to how we found ourselves where we are. But then let's get into today's conversation. Governor Wike of Rivers State took a swipe at the campaign team of the PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar over their protest against the outcome of the February 25th poll. He said, and I quote, "Those who said they will conspire against me are those wearing black. I'm wearing white and they are wearing black. It does look like Governor Wike isn't done yet." Bikeo.
Yes, he enjoys his day in the sun. And I've not seen a politician in recent memory able to soak up the atmosphere the way this fellow does. He also knows how to use the press. You know, he's inaugurating projects, initiating new projects, even with just 3 months to the end of his administration. And on all of those occasions, he finds the opportunity to make political statements, to rubbish his political party, to rubbish Atiku Abubakar, and you. And you can see that the pressure is getting to Atiku and his team. You heard when Dino Melaye said he was giving him a final warning that he should stop insulting Atiku. But the same Dino Melaye does not see anything wrong in himself mocking Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, showing himself falling on stage as if the presidential candidate of the APC cannot walk unassisted. You know, we've seen him even calling Asiwaju an Olodo. Yet, here is a man who went to good schools abroad and worked for reputable companies, Mobile, Deloitte, and the rest of them. So it's getting to them because Wike continues to tear them apart at every opportunity. And he said something that they were accusing INEC of going against his own guidelines. And among the guidelines of INEC was the promise or obligation to post results on the public viewing portal, otherwise known as IREV. He then said, in your own case, your own party, you fail to follow your constitution because section 7, subsection 3C of the PDP constitution approves zoning. So the zoning principle is entrenched in the PDP constitution, but the party did not follow it and allowed Atiku Abubakar from northern Nigeria to emerge as his presidential candidate, while the chairman of the party, Yotia Ayu, also from the north, held on to his position in clear violation of the zoning principle. If the PDP were to follow zoning, a presidential candidate from southern Nigeria would have emerged. So Wike reminded them that while you can abuse the INEC because it failed to make good its pledge to post election results on the public viewing portal so that people can check and confirm that the reports on their polling units are there, you also didn't follow your own party. So he made the point that they can protest as much as they want, but that the fact remains that the party failed. Whatever the PDP will say, yes, some of those governors, the G5 governors, did not win their senatorial elections. But the fact also remains that the PDP did not win a single G5 state. They didn't even come close to winning a single G5 state. So this is the reality. So as far as Wike is concerned, the election has been won and lost. So whatever they do
Yeah.
Whatever rallies, whatever protests they do,
Right.
will not change the outcome.
Absolutely. But then, in another breath, the PDP also asked Professor Mahmoud Yakubu to resign his chairmanship of the Electoral Commission, insisting that INEC rigged for the APC. Isn't this a weighty allegation, PK?
Yeah, but it's up to them to prove it. People can make all kinds of wild claims. You see, Atiku said, and I quote, "The weekend election was neither free nor fair. Preliminary assessment indicates that it is the worst conducted election since the return of democratic rule. The manipulation and fraud that attended the election were unprecedented in the history of our nation." And the APC responded by saying, "You cannot bully INEC to announce concocted elections to favor the Labour Party as well as the PDP." And as far as the APC are concerned, they are playing up some isolated incidents across the country to rubbish the entire process. That is my view too. Yes, there were irregularities in some states, but the election was generally peaceful and generally free and fair. That is why you see that even the complaints are limited to just some parts of our country. Northern Nigeria with 19 states, how many reports have we received that the elections were rigged? The people making so much noise that the elections were rigged just because of the matter of transmission, they are located largely in Lagos and a few states, including Rivers, where it was reported that votes were suppressed and all that. Vote suppression is a very, very bad thing. It's something that we have to deal with. It is barbaric for people to stop others from going to vote just because you fear that they are going to defeat you in the election. I oppose it wherever it happens. I oppose it with all my heart. I've always wanted a free and fair election in our country. And because I know that that is the first step towards achieving growth and development. The moment we are able to get our elections right, we will be able to get leadership right. We will be able to find the right leaders because they know that if they do not work for the people, they will be chased away with the people's ballots. So, as we are seeing now, power is coming gradually into the hands of the people. If 20 governors out of 36 could not deliver their states in the presidential election, I have never seen an election more credible than this one. Since 2019, we have never had it this good, that 20 governors will fail to defend their states. In the past, they will simply write the figures. But what people are doing now is simply to gloss over the successes that we recorded just because of some isolated incidents and because INEC was not able to upload all of the results from the polling units. But we must always look at positives. Someone like El-Rufai lost his state by a wide margin, and heavens have not fallen. In the past, I could not imagine that El-Rufai, who scored on 2 occasions, he scored more than 1 million votes to be elected governor in that state. I couldn't have imagined that El-Rufai would lose Kaduna by a wide margin. And look at the President Muhammadu Buhari also lost Katsina. Yes, by a small margin. They lost Katsina. Out of the 7 states of the Northwest, APC, Atiku won 4. APC won only 2. and NNPP took just one state, that is Kano. You look at the Northeast, out of the 6 states of the Northeast, Atiku alone won 5, and APC won only 1, which is Borno State. In fact, Borno, they had to struggle, despite Borno being the home of the vice presidential candidate. So this time around, you must work hard to win an election. It's no longer business as usual. You can no longer sit down and write results or hijack ballot papers on the way to the local government collation centers. No, those things are not happening anymore. So what people do now is to suppress votes. You go and block people. Ensure that they can, where you are weak, ensure that your opponents cannot get to the polling centers. It is barbaric, it is irresponsible, and I oppose it. But I also oppose people trying to make it sound like this election was a total sham. Some people are extremely dishonest. They know in their hearts that this election, by even the results that came out, was largely successful, largely represented the wish and the desires of our people. The first goal of an election is for the voice of the people to be heard, is for the wish of the people to be expressed. No one can say that the views of our people have not been expressed loudly in this election. It is the person who deserves to win that won the election. This is a fact. And the courts, I'm sure that the courts will show that, because I looked at Kwara. Exactly what I expected to happen in Kwara was what happened. The Sarakis will not be able to launch a comeback. I predicted it, and that's what happened. APC won all the local governments in Kwara.
Absolutely.
Because the people of Kwara were not prepared to return to Saraki rule at this time. So generally, what we thought would happen happened across the states. Look at Lagos. You can imagine National Bola Tinubu contesting in Lagos and being beaten. He was defeated in his local government, defeated in the state. Yet, people will still say so much rigging. Where? If he wanted to rig, will he allow himself to be defeated in his state when he's contesting?
Right.
He also lost Osun State. None of us saw it coming. We thought the people would vote for him because, oh, he's their son. Oh, he's a Yoruba man, is their son. So this election really makes me happy, because whatever the inadequacies, look at Delta State. Look at what happened in Delta. See the way Okowa and the rest of them were decimated and disgraced. Look at Edo State. Edo State succumbed to the Labour Party tsunami. The governor came third. PDP came third. That's to show you that Obaseki is no longer popular. He came third. Even APC defeated him in Edo State. This is the thing. There are many positives that we can take away from this election if we are honest people, if we want to tell ourselves the truth. And I am committed to saying the truth, that yes, there were irregularities, but you cannot say the irregularities were across board. You cannot say the irregularities cut across the entire country. To say that is to be extremely dishonest, is to not fear God.
Right, Biko. Let me quickly take 1 or 2 comments here. Fabian Akezi says, Iochayu cost Atiku and the PDP the presidential election. If he wanted AA to be president, he should have stepped down a long time ago. Wike would have won the election if he was given the ticket. Kenneth Agbo says, this is the freest election in Nigeria. Yes, there may have been some irregularities in some places, but they are not enough to invalidate this election. Obi never ran to win because you must win to third of 24 states. Nelson Adufe Samuel Oluwarunfola says, I totally agree with Wiki, INEC and good Nigerians. Yoruba adage says, if one person does not lose, the other person will not win. Those are their comments there. But I think there are just some repetitions being made here. But we need to change tack by looking at the Naira palaver. You know, some state governments are planning to initiate contempt proceedings against the AGF, our Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, and Godwin Emefiele, over their refusal to implement the Supreme Court's judgment on the Naira redesign policy of the federal government. BKO, what exactly does the presidency want to gain from suffering the people they swore to protect?
They are the ones who can explain why. And I can tell you that our president would not have tried this during his first term. The president loves himself so much to the point that you can actually accuse him of being selfish. The president did not allow this to happen during his first term because he knew it would compromise his desire to be re-elected. Everything that could stand in the way of his re-election, the president did his best to remove. Now, he's behaving like the party that served as the vehicle that put him in power no longer matters to him. This president was told, I've heard people say, oh, why did they go to court in the first place? It's a matter that should have been resolved behind closed doors. It's a matter that should have been resolved over dinner, over breakfast. Nigerians are not current. They don't read. Things happen, and those things elude them. The governors of the APC went to Mr. President and told him, don't do this at this time. It will hurt our party. But he chose not to listen. He chose not to listen. He was just bent on stopping vote buying. There is no economic sense in the policy that they have come up with, the Naira repainting, that they call Naira redesign, because there's no real redesigning. It's just the colors that they change. There's no economic sense to it. It will not make the Naira stronger against the currencies of the world. Currencies that we used to mock, like the CFA from France, they are now of greater value than our currency. Because we had a CBN governor, we have a CBN governor who is the worst in Nigerian history. A CBN governor who totally failed in managing our currency against other currencies of the world. The Naira had never been this weak. Now, you came up with a policy that has only impoverished our people. Our people want 5,000 Naira. POS operators will take 2,000 extra. We never thought that day could come when Nigeria will be this hopeless. And our clueless leaders will not be able to do anything about it. Now, the governors went to court, tried to get the Supreme Court to intervene because of the pains that this ill-thought-out policy has inflicted on our people. But what did we see? Instead of abiding by the decision of the Supreme Court, which state action on the Naira redesign thing, the president tried to vary the content of the order of the Supreme Court by coming up with a needless address to Nigerians, an address that made no sense, made no meaning, empty rhyme. At the end of the day, the judgment came. Despite all the noise by some lawyers that Supreme Court should not dabble in monetary matters, Supreme Court assumed jurisdiction. Again, as I said on Journalist Hangout, the Supreme Court had an obligation to determine whether the CBN obeyed the CBN Act of 2007, because the Act says that you must provide sufficient time. So what was before the Supreme Court was the determination as to whether sufficient time was given for Nigerians for this policy to kick in. And the apex court affirmed that sufficient time was not given, because in some countries of the world, it takes 2 years to get this done. People like Emefiele have no regard for for the Nigerian people, total disrespect for the Nigerian people, treating Nigerian people as a sweet wrap on the floor, because it's a sweet wrap on the floor that is worthless. Felt they could treat us just the way they liked. Now they've lost the case in court. They have not made any statement, any categorical statement. The president obviously unhappy that he lost in the court, because he clearly sees himself as bigger than the Supreme Court. He's unhappy that he lost in the court, and he has chosen to keep quiet, not bothering himself about the pains that our people are still going through. This is not a battle an issue to personalize. Think of the pains that those people are going through. People can't pay their hospital bills, not because they don't have money in the banks, but because Emefiele confiscated people's money and chose not to give them their money when they demand for it. A man has millions of naira in a bank, and you tell him to take 2,000 across the counter. It's absolutely crazy. This is what our people have been made to go through. A government that does not want its people to suffer will step in at this time and say, yes, this is what we want. The president has been taciturn. The CBN governor has not given a categorical answer. Banks are paying people old notes, but they are refusing to allow people to make deposits in old notes. So it's total shambles. People can't understand why this is going on. People can't understand why they will vote for a government and the government will be inflicting pain on them deliberately like this. I've never seen anything like this. Government must be accountable to the people. To treat our people in this way shows that the government does not think it is accountable to the people. Or is it because it's just on his way out? He couldn't have done this during the first time. So I support the governor of Kogi State and other governors who have criminalized refusing to take the old notes from people, because the Supreme Court is the final court of the land and his word is final. Mr. President himself is obligated to obey and comply with the directive or order of the Supreme Court. So anyone who fails to take the old Naira notes ought to be arrested. And I'm happy that the Kogi State governor has set up a committee now to monitor compliance. Any bank that does not take old notes from people should be shut down. Take away their premises. We can't allow bank staff to be punishing Nigerians in this manner. But I want to believe that now that CBN's criminal silence is being addressed by this by the 10 governors, including significantly Sokoto State Governor, who is a PDP governor, because people like the governor of those states who are trying to make this a party affair without thinking about the pains that his people were going through. There is a PDP governor in Tambuwal amongst these governors. Now they want to institute. They have forwarded the certified true copy of the enrollment order and the judgment of the Supreme Court to the CBN and to the Attorney General of the Federation, because the CBN could hide behind the fact that it had not been served a copy of the judgment of the Supreme Court. Now they've taken the enrollment order, a copy of the judgment, and served on these individuals.
Absolutely.
Let us see whether they will not obey the order of the Supreme Court, because if they do not do that, then they are playing with fire.
Absolutely, Wiki. Yeah, you know, before
the Supreme Court talks,
okay,
when the Supreme Court talks, I'm quoting one of the lawyers.
Okay.
They are saying that they expect immediate compliance, and if there's no compliance now, they will commence committal proceedings against the Attorney General and the CBN. This Attorney General is playing with fire.
Absolutely.
Buhari will not be in office forever. By the time Buhari leaves office, he could be in hot water, just like an attorney general before him, Andoka, and they can take away his sanction. So he has to actually do what is right. So the lawyer is saying when the Supreme Court talks, the Constitution makes it compulsory
Listen,
for all government
to obey.
representatives and everybody to comply. It is not discretional. You have to obey. It is the last and final court, and that's why we have separation of power. When the Supreme Court talks, it must be complied with by all persons. So that is what the one of the lawyers to the 10 governors said, and we expect that in this coming week, these people will behave themselves and stop the needless pain
Right, Biko.
and wickedness that we are seeing.
All right, let me quickly take this comment and then I ask my final question. Olatunji Atonda says Buhari should direct his appointee to immediately obey court orders. Fabian Akeze says state governors should focus their blame on the president and stop absolving him of the crisis his administration has created. Folashade Olanrioye says, okay, I think she's responding to someone. Said, Nonso, are you saying that what Emefiele did was good? Can he live on 20,000 naira a day along with his family? God will judge them for the pain and suffering people are going through. Kenneth Agbo says, Nonso, if BKO doesn't speak the truth, why do you tune in to listen to him, to his analysis? Yes, I'm pained because we'll be lost, but the moment he started moving from church to other, I knew the core North won't vote him. Well, that's, but then my final question to you, BKO, before the ruling of the Supreme Court on the Naira policy, the president was seen in a video asking for Kaduna people to vote for Senator Obasani, and then he apologized that the Naira policy was not intended to bring hardship on Nigerians. But why then has he been silent since the judgment and Nigerians are waiting on him to just say something?
It's difficult to explain why this president behaves in this way. But there are people who are saying that he doesn't want the old Naira notes to be distributed for this election. So it's still, some are saying by the time this election is over, this second round of elections, they are going to release the old notes. They lied to us that the old notes had been burnt. But the governors told them that, look, we have evidence that the old notes have not been burnt, and a good number of the old notes are actually still in the vaults of the banks. So in the end, they have to comply. Now, so Fabian Akeze saying, why don't the governors focus on Buhari? They cannot focus on Buhari because Buhari has immunity. You cannot start contempt proceedings against him. So the people that you can focus on are the people who do not have immunity. And they are just as liable as the president. Yes, that case was instituted against the president. When they argued that, that the CBN was not joined, you know, those lawyers with their fake argument. When they said, the CBN was not joined, Supreme Court said that, yes, Buhari as president, the CBN governor is his appointee, even though he didn't directly appoint him, but he's deemed to be his appointee. He takes instructions from him. Therefore, the CBN governor is also liable. So there's nothing like, we don't have jurisdiction, or because you didn't copy, because you didn't, in the suit, because you didn't join the CBN, therefore that suit had fallen apart from the beginning. The final court effectively took care of that by saying it's the federal government and CBN is an agency of the federal government. So it's because the president has immunity. But we can deal with people who do not have immunity, and the people who do not have immunity will fear the cost of the land. You can't bring any matter against the president while he's still president, any criminal matter, because his immunity will ensure that he ignores people. But The Attorney General has played a very bad role in this whole process. He should have supported a peaceful means of resolving this matter, but he didn't play that role. There was a meeting that was held. Everyone thought that, at least I was privy to that meeting. The governor, some of the governors who attended that meeting told me they were hopeful that peace had come. But a few hours later, the president had been had his heart poisoned again, and at that point, they knew that only the judgment of the Supreme Court will end this matter. Now the Supreme Court has given its judgment, and the CBN, as well as Mr. President, are still making life unbearable for the Nigerian people. I don't know what the president, what is going through his mind, but he has destroyed his own legacy by allowing this level of wickedness to continue. Whatever you've done, whatever roads you have built for Nigeria, for Nigerians that people are praising you about, they will remember that in your time, you caused them to go through so much pain, and a lot of them will not think about some of the good things that you have done. This is the way it is. It is those negative things that people remember. So if the president actually has advisors and not people who are simply taking money for doing nothing, he has to step in at this time and stop this needless pain. This is the thing. We will say the truth. No matter how painful it is in the ears of people, I will say the truth. I'm committed to saying the truth. And this is the truth. I will always say, whether it's about the elections or anything, I will say the truth.
Right. Well, that's the thing. We just see that there's so many, reactions here. Like someone saying, Nelson at the first saying, BKO is a sample. I think some people are actually criticizing your positions, and they said that BKO is a sample of masses of Nigeria. It reflects the pain and sufferings and advice openly for the good Nigerians. Why are people criticizing someone like BKO, who is the mouthpiece of the people? You remind me of that title that you were given in is it Enugu State or so? Well then,
no, people will criticize me because my position on the elections. A lot of people don't like it.
Yeah.
But that is the truth. And someone said, "Oh, Jide, you are going to lose your fans." I don't care if I'm the only person left. Once I know that this is the truth, I follow it. And things hardly go wrong for me on the positions that I take on issues. When everyone thought that Magu was a thief, this and that, I decided to stick my neck out for him. And in the end, I was vindicated. Because of those money and those silly things they were saying about Magu, I knew that they were lies. Now we know better. And the police eventually promoted him to AIG rank.
Absolutely, BKO.
Because the IG said, look, I have not seen anything that he has done.
Correct.
Even in your final report, there's no clear indictment.
Yeah. BKO, we have run
so
out of
this
time.
is the thing.
Right. We've run out of time. Yeah, so that's the thing. That's the thing. Just keep doing what you're doing best, and those who support you will definitely support you when you say things they want to hear.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, that's our show for today's edition of Issues with Jide. Special thanks to you, Babajide Kolade-Otitoju, for those insightful analyses as always.
Thank you. God bless you. I wish you safe journey as you go to cover the elections next weekend.
Next week. All right.
I wonder whether we can find a way to do the program, because
we
have to pet the viewers of this program.
Right.
So we have to find a way to please them.
Absolutely.
On Saturday.
Absolutely. And thanks to you, to our audience, for joining us on every edition. You can see the program again anytime by subscribing to our YouTube channel, TVC News Nigeria. Click on the subscribe button to get the latest information. You can also follow us on our social media platforms at TVC News NG. I'm also at Ibrahim_Shita. On behalf of the rest of the team, I'm Ibrahim Shita. See you again next edition. Bye for now.